Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Teresa Lisum, coming to you with my amazing guest co host, Liz Jakoi, and we're evolving women. I'm evolving. You're evolving. We're all evolving. And we're on this journey together. So, to help on that journey, we're here to share uplifting messages, offer new perspectives, tools, resources, wellness ideas, maybe some mindset shifts, maybe plant some new seeds so that we all evolve faster. And we're also here to give you permission to be your best self. So, welcome. We're so glad you're here. So, part of evolving is stepping into the next level of ourselves. So, we're going to go ahead and explore that with Liz Jakoi. Thank you so much for being here, Liz.
Teresa, thank you so much for inviting me. And I know I've enjoyed our conversations in the past. So this is going to be fun today.
Yes, we shall see where the breadcrumbs lead us.
You bet.
So we were talking right before hitting the record button all about nature versus nurture and all kinds of things. Yeah, so let's just pick up where we already started.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that the conversation we had before. We were talking about, I don't know, we covered quite a few topics, everything from being diagnosed with ADHD or self-diagnosed or trauma or awareness, learning, environment, like everything. So I think it's interesting because as human beings, and I think you find that too in your work, is we always, I shouldn't say always, I don't, I'm trying to get away from those words. We are looking at being better. I
Yes.
don't know if that's because you and I just happen to be in that time of our lives where personal development and expansion of our being is really important because we've noticed that we've stumbled across someone, in our case, David Bayer, who that was my first conference I ever went to about 4 years ago. Um, Something like that, a personal development conference. I've never been to those. I've watched a lot of YouTubes. And when you get there and you start to realize that you've always talked about or thought about, and in my case, when I was in human resources, developing people,
Mm.
but not really, didn't really do it for myself. I don't know. What do you think about that? Is that what you think? That's why we're so want to talk more about evolving and nature and nurture and things are sort of opening up for us? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it does have to do with some age. And when you get, everybody seems to get to a certain point in their lives, whatever the age may be, where they have this awareness of something more, something better, something different from what they're experiencing right now. And I don't know if that's women only. I don't know if that's men because I'm not in that male perspective. But I've been on a self improvement journey for a long time. Where did that stem from? I don't know. Was it my feelings of not feeling worthy enough or good enough? Is that where it started? I really have never thought about it now that you bring this up. But I definitely have heard from lots of other women that they get to a point in their lives where they're like, they're out of survival mode, as a mom with children, and you get to that point where your kids are gone and you now have the opportunity to think beyond the immediate situation and survival. And then that's when a lot of women, at least from my experience, starts to really decide for themselves, okay, where do I go from here? Who can I be? What's the next version of myself?
Yeah. And two words came up for me as you were talking. Now what?
Now what? Yes, love that.
Right? Now what?
Yep.
Okay, the kid.
Yep.
But you know what? And as I heard you talking, that is so true because I think that's what happened to me about 10 years ago. I've always been in personal development. Um, Started, I think, with I don't know, Dr. Wayne Dwyer's book in my
Oh,
20s,
yes, loved him. Yes.
Pulling Your Own Strings. And I think I highlighted, I think I have that book somewhere. Pen highlighter. I don't even think they had those felt highlighters. I used a pen, highlighted it, and of course it bled through the other page, and now I can't even read the book because, but, and so it was always, and you mentioned like, how did that awareness? So I think like you, we've been in it, but there wasn't the how to as much as, great books. I've read hundreds of books now. I mean, if I
Hmm.
had to count, it's probably, I don't know, hundreds.
Yep, yep.
And probably like you, we read a book, we get all pumped and excited,
Hmm. Hmm.
but then it's now what?
Right, exactly.
Right? And so when we first get exposed to a conference, maybe you go to a Tony Robbins Unleash Your Power, online event, which is very cost effective, by the way. Doesn't cost a lot to do his online event. Well, I mean, for some people it might still be, but you see a lot of people there, young and old. And what I really love seeing is people who recognize this already at the 19 years of age.
Mm. Hmm. Yes,
They're
yes.
doing
I love
something.
that. I mean, because for at least for me, it took me a good portion of my life before I got to that realization. And I'm still on that journey of unlayering the onion of all the things that I picked up along my journey that I need to let go of. But yeah, I love and I get so tickled and thrilled when I see people of a younger generation are already aware of things. And I just feel like, oh my God, that's so great because they're going to make things change for the better in the world because they have so much more time to do it.
Yeah, you mentioned that word epigenetics. So it's kind of like, for me, it's more generationally,
Mm,
right? It's healing generationally.
love that.
If we can heal the younger generation, if the younger generation can heal themselves and recognize that the parents did the best that they can, because
Yes,
oh, my
yes.
parents did the best that they
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
They came from a war-torn country, came
Mm,
to this country without even being able to speak the language.
mm,
Yeah, there's a lot of people that come to this country and they already have the English language, and they're given tools, they're given things and means, right? No, it's not to say that, I'm not, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is it was difficult. And so if people can recognize that, and that's what I think I love now is the younger generation is saying, no, I don't like this. I don't
mm,
like the fact that I'm feeling this way. I don't like the fact that this is happening. It's got to change. So
mm.
whereas we, or I shouldn't say we, I know I grew up with pull up your panties, baby, and just keep going.
Yep, yep.
Stop crying, pull up
Mm-hmm.
your socks, and just do it. Now I
Yep.
get it. I get the action part because we know Tony Robbins talks a lot about taking action and what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a part of you that has to understand, why am I feeling this way? And that's what I think I love about, well, they call them millennials, but I think it would be that, 30s age group that I hear them saying, I don't like this. I don't like feeling this.
Mm-hmm.
It's got
Mm-hmm.
to change. And they look for ways to change it. Whereas we probably grew up with, oh, I'm not supposed to even mention that I'm feeling.
Right, right. Just accept what is. And like you said, keep on trudging along
Yeah.
and don't question anything. But I appreciate that you brought up the fact that we came from a generation that had totally different experiences than us, thought totally differently. And we're like, I almost think of us as the transitional generation. We're going from that way of thinking to maybe bridging the gap between that younger group that you just
Mm.
referenced.
No.
Like we're in between. And I'm just saying that out loud is like, oh, that's a really interesting awareness that I'd never had before.
Yeah.
And I applaud and I'm grateful for where our parents came from,
Oh,
and
yeah.
especially yours that came without, knowing the language. I mean, that just takes a lot of courage to do that. And I so appreciate, I'm a little farther out in, I mean, my grandmother, she spoke Slovak. And so like I'm just like a little generation beyond that. But so I'm not blaming them for the way they thought, the way we were brought up. I applaud them. I understand that, like you said, they were doing the best they could with what they had. But it's up to every generation to improve, to change, to heal.
That's what I'm hoping that, you know what, it kind of brought up, you're right. And it kind of brought, that's the nurture part, because the environment that you and I grew up in is so different from the environment that our kids grew up in. And when I used to tell my kids about how my mom treated me when I was a child, and that I was going to say a D word. I don't know if I can on a I but I didn't want to do it to them. And so
Yeah.
if I did, they would say, "Mom, I didn't like that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. You know what? It's something my mom used to do to me, and I hated it,
Mhm.
but I've done it to you, so I'm sorry. But
Yeah.
recognize that this is something that I'm going to change, but it's not a light switch.
Hmm.
It
Yeah. Oh,
require time and time again. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to do it again.
hmm.
But the more you bring it to my attention, the more I can change." So of course they go, "Mom, you're doing it again." Yeah. Which is good. But I
Right.
think that's why that could be, if there are more parents like that, like you and I, maybe who recognized the environment we came from and didn't want to have that environment, created somewhat different environment. I mean, I still made mistakes, goof
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's what's happening, right? It just takes us as parents to change where we came from for the future generation so that they can change and they can change it for the next, and so
Yeah.
on. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so that could be part of that nature nurture, right? It's not
Hmm.
really nature for us, for me to behave like my mom, because there isn't a gene for manipulation.
Hmm.
There
Hmm.
isn't a gene for slamming the cupboard door because I'm pissed,
Hmm.
right? At what
Oh
my kid
yeah,
did, but
I
it was
totally get it.
environment. But when I caught myself doing those things, boy, not only did it help me, but it helped my kids, because I think what I've instilled in Mike, and I don't mean to be polishing a halo or anything here. It's just bringing to this conversation, just bringing up something that I think we as parents, when we're trying to change these things, we're we're recognizing that it didn't work and what could work
Hmm.
better.
Hmm.
Be grateful and appreciate and be proud that you're changing it. Stop
Hmm. Right,
begging.
right.
I think we need to be, maybe that's what we need to embrace too, is when we are making these changes, and like you said, peeling back the layer and becoming more aware. Be proud of it.
Oh, for sure. Um, like I know you were speaking about, experiences as a child. And I remember as a young mom, I made a similar decision. Oh, this is what my parents would have done. I don't want to do it that way. So I literally remember making that decision in one particular moment in time, and nope, it's going to be different with me. And that's what it was. I mean, for some people it might be an immediate change. Like you said, it may be with a light switch, it may not. It may be a gradual um, process that plays out, but it is a decision. It's a decision that we all get to make at any point in our lives. I don't like when people hold on to something that happened to them 50 years ago, just for example, and they just keep bringing that energy and holding on to that energy again and again and again, bringing it forward in life. And it's just not serving anybody. It's not serving the situation where it first occurred. It's not serving that person now. And I'm just thinking of one particular person in my life that has done that. And if you if you have never made that decision, then that you're not in that evolution on that evolution path. Whereas we're talking about being on the evolution path, but not everybody is on that. I mean, I think
Mhm.
there's more people on that evolving path than there used to be,
Absolutely.
but like you said, it seems to be an explosion of that happening now. That awareness, people are stepping into that awareness. Um, but and don't beat anybody up for not being in that awareness because we all make our own choices. And if we want to carry something with us our entire life, hey, that's our choice. But there's others of us who are like, yeah, no, no more.
I love that. You talk about choices and decision, and I think making a decision, and I think both of us, because we were under David Bayer's, and it's not just David Bayer, there was a book called The Power of Decision, right? Um, Interesting that you mentioned when you decided that you weren't going to do X,
Mm.
it didn't happen. So maybe we could talk about that. Why is it sometimes, because that happens to me too, sometimes I decide and then boom, right? You change your course, you change your direction,
Hmm.
everything changes. But then there are those other times where slamming the cupboard door, I'll do it two or three more times.
Hmm.
So annoyed. So even though I made the decision I'm not going to do that
Hmm.
anymore,
Hmm.
I'm wondering why does it sometimes take us, even though we make the decision, to, what's the, not falter.
Break out of the rut.
Yeah, exactly.
Does it depend on how deep that rut is? I mean, I know I have default behaviors and thoughts that, man, it's really easy for me to snap right back into them.
Yeah.
And I have to make a conscious, almost a physical effort not to go there, but to take that new decision and go forward with it. But you're right. Why are some easier than others? And that's a good
Well,
question.
that's something for us to ponder and maybe think about
Hmm.
time. And kind of going back to your example of someone who has to bring up something that happened 50 years ago. So it's that resentment, the grudge.
Yep, exactly.
Um, what purpose is it serving them? Or
Exactly.
if we look at it from a compassionate point of view, understand that it's serving them some kind of purpose.
Hmm.
We don't know what that is.
Right.
So maybe that might help us to remove, because I know I would get judgmental right away.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Why can't they let go?
Hmm.
That brings me, have you heard of Mel Robbins got that new book coming out, Let Them Theory? So
No, I did not know she was coming out with something new.
yeah, Let Them Theory. So it's kind of like let them. So it's kind of like this 50-year-old or 60-year-old or however, he's been holding on to this grudge for 50 years and can't let go. And we know, you and I know that that's where dis-ease happens.
Hmm.
Whether it's
Hmm.
inflammatory,
Right.
anything has been linked to that fixed mindset, that grudge, that resentment.
Hmm.
But it's a serving a purpose. So if we can understand it's serving a purpose for that person, and we don't know what that purpose is. And just having compassion and kind of looking at what can they, how can we look at them differently and what can we do and just pour love into them. And maybe that's all they need is having more
Hmm.
pouring love into them no matter how they are by letting them just be who they are. And maybe
Hmm.
they'll then eventually become aware. I don't know. That's my theory.
I love that. And again, that's something that we have to consciously do because our default reaction might be to judge, to criticize, to like, why is that person doing that? And get angry, but to consciously stop ourselves and send them love, send them compassion. Because obviously that's what they just did or thought or said is stemming from something inside of them that was causing them to react as they did. So do we have to continue that chain reaction? Well, they did that, so now I'm going to do that. Like there's this whole chain of negative reaction. So it does take some effort to stop and shift that to, oh, sending them love, sending them compassion, sending them understanding. I know that's something I've been doing a lot of this year. Am I doing that 100% of the time? No. But I'm the little part that I can do, I believe is changing the energy of the planet and the earth and humanity. So even if we are just changing a little bit in a positive direction, that's rippling out throughout the entire world energetically. That's my thoughts, but
And that goes back to what you wanted to talk about today, and that's becoming the best version of ourselves or the next level so that we can continue to evolve into a better, for me, it's to be a better human,
yeah.
right? And so, and that helps you because we get triggered. I mean, I still get triggered. We were talking about this earlier with someone today. We both were in a coffee shop and we recognized that, there's this one person that triggers us. And I said, yes, because that's the next layer in our onion
Mm,
work on to figure out so we don't get triggered.
yeah. Yeah.
Not them,
Right.
it's us. It has
Yeah,
nothing to do with them. They
exactly.
can be who they are. Let them be
Let
who
them
they
be.
are.
Yeah.
And just what can I do to evolve and grow from this so I don't get triggered?
hmm
Maybe there's something in my past. Someone said something to me.
Yes.
Maybe it
Yep.
was my mom who, you know, taught me that people shouldn't behave that way. And so now I'm
hmm
thinking that's why I'm triggered because this person's behaving in a way that
Yes.
I'm thinking they shouldn't be behaving that way.
hmm Well, and the interesting thing, and when I first heard that why I'm being triggered is something within me, it's like I could not grasp that. Like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. I know it's the other person's fault. It's not mine. But I really had to, and it's still a journey for me, but I really had to sit with it and ponder it and let it percolate. Like, oh, it took me a while to understand that everybody's got their own crap and they're just projecting that out to other people. And if how we receive that and take that will determine how, whether we're suffering with that or being triggered or getting angry or whatever. Um, I mean,
Love it.
that's a whole nother conversation, man.
But it brings me back to when I was pondering the decision, why for you when you decided you weren't going to do, and but why it was more I think this is why it might take a few, it's showing up for me. Yeah, because it could be so ingrained in us to judge.
Oh
That's
yeah.
why that decision to let them be who they are is still a difficult decision because I'm still going to get triggered.
hmm
I haven't figured out where that trigger came from. And
Right.
it's
Right.
not really, it's not living in the past, it's not dwelling on it. It doesn't hurt to find it, I think, because it's that aha moment, because it's that light bulb. It's like, oh, okay, so now I can choose to make a decision. So I think when you do that personal inquiry and then you make the decision, that's when it's a flip of the switch. So for
And
me,
and
maybe
I'm hearing David Bear come through you.
I know, and I didn't think that was going to happen.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like, oh yeah, that's what he talks about is that awareness, making the decision, and
That's what. So for me, for the cupboard door, maybe because I didn't take time to do a personal inquiry about where did that come from, right? Why, or didn't have that light bulb moment. Oh, and so making the decision took a few tries before I stopped the behavior. Interesting.
and sometimes I don't know why I'm triggered. And I've sat like, why is that triggering me? Like, where is that coming from? Like, I don't know. And have I ever figured it out for some things? No.
It'll come to you when it's
It'll,
supposed to come to
yeah,
you.
I was just gonna say, it'll come to it in to me in
Yeah.
its own timing. But I want to just bring up, this has been really a part of my coaching training, but not controlling others. We have to have that realization we can't control others. We can't control what they're doing that's triggering us. We can't be in their business. All we can do is stay in our lane, focus on how we're reacting. And, if we are being triggered, why, figuring it all out. But that's just been a really huge understanding and awareness for me. Letting people be, let them be. That's their thing. It has nothing to do with me unless I want it to. And that's when I get triggered or upset or whatever. So just knowing that it's not up to us to control anybody. The only people we can control is us.
Yeah, absolutely. Tough to do sometimes, though.
It is tough to do. It's a simple thing, but is it easy? No,
No,
not
definitely.
all the time. But just knowing that somebody cuts you off, just as an easy example, and we get triggered and we're all upset and blah, blah, blah. But we can't, what we're thinking in our head is not affecting that person in any way, shape, or form. And
Well,
why
that's
are we trying to control his driving behavior with the thoughts in our head? You know what I mean? Like it, when you speak it out loud, it's just ridiculous.
meanwhile, he's further ahead and we're still far
Yeah,
behind.
like, and I spent all this energy getting upset, and he doesn't even know, it's just
And he's
us
already a
humans.
mile ahead, and I'm still.
Exactly. Like I like to say, us humans are so funny. Like we just do these things to ourselves.
But you know what the interesting thing is? I'm going back to that cutting someone off. I looked at that when because my kids have noticed about 2, 3 years ago. They go, "Mom, you used to get upset when someone cuts you off, and I've noticed lately you don't." And I said, "Because I used to notice that I get upset when someone cuts me off and swearing, flipping my finger, whatever.
Yep.
But then when I cut someone off by mistake and they flip me the finger, or I can see them getting upset and behind the wheel and saying all
Mhm.
sorts, can see that they're saying something to you in their car.
Right, right.
I'm thinking about myself and saying, yeah, but my mind was wandering because I just lost my dog, or
Right, right,
like I'm
right.
compassionate about why I cut someone off.
Mhm.
So why can't we be compassionate when someone else cuts us off?
Exactly. They may be having the worst day of their lives.
Didn't even notice you. The
Exactly.
same reason I didn't notice someone else because my mind was somewhere else.
Yep. And I know when that happens to me, again, that's a very simple example. I will just forgive them because like I've done that myself. Like I can't be mad at them because I have my own moments when I cut into front of somebody, like I said, without even realizing it, like, oh shit. So just like you said, just that compassion, just that awareness that we don't know what's going on in their lives or in their heads, and we can't control it. And why am I getting upset about that? Yeah, there's just so many things that are all part of that simple situation.
It's our blind spot. That's what just came to me.
Mm,
Blind spot that we have because the other day when I was driving, I almost I was trying to change lanes, and you look in the rearview mirror, and out of the corner when I was changing lane, I realized there was a car beside me, so I quickly pulled back. But the guy didn't do anything. He just kept driving, and I thought, nice. Because normally
hmm.
people would beep their horn or start,
Yep,
right?
yep,
And
yep.
I thought, blind spot. So I was in his blind spot. Maybe he understood that he was in my blind spot.
Mm,
That's why he did, because he noticed I corrected. So it's like,
hmm.
oh, she corrected. Don't need to,
Right.
you know.
Don't need to put any emotion around it.
Maybe that's what we need to do too, is be compassionate with ourselves when we're about to do something and we don't realize it, but then we catch ourselves and go and be compassionate for, oh, I caught myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-compassion, self-love is so important. And that allows us to extend that to others on a regular basis. But oh my God, I'm loving our
Yeah.
conversation. We do need to stop and wrap it up, sadly, but I'm hoping you will come back and we could chat some more. We have so many things we could talk about.
I'm sure you were taking your list. I was doing mine. We've
I
got,
know, like, oh, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that.
we
So
will.
if
Thank
you're
you so
open to
much.
that,
Yep.
we would love to have you come back.
I'd
And
love to.
good.
I think it just kind of wraps up the next level for stepping into ourselves and evolving is self-compassion because it all
Oh
starts
yeah, love
with
that.
us. Because when it starts with us, we're compassionate with ourselves,
Yes.
be compassionate with others.
Yeah. It's definitely a ripple effect outward. I know that sounds almost cliche-ish. It starts with us, it starts with ourselves, inner peace, and everything starts with us. We've heard it all the time, hopefully, but it really is true when you stop and really think about it. So I offer that to our viewers. Don't dismiss that. Really take that to heart and think on that. So, how about that being our
Love it.
call to action is being more compassionate with ourselves and just seeing how that, will change the course of a situation or whatever is happening in front of you. But
Yeah.
thank you so much. If people want
Thank
to
you.
get a hold of you, Liz, how can they find you?
I'm easy to find. It's Liz Jakoi, LIZJAKOI.com, at gmail.com, IG Liz Jakoi, Facebook Liz. It's just there.
She's just all over the place, all over the platforms. We will also have her information in the description with this video, so you can find that there. And so if you want to, learn more about Liz, go check her out and look forward for the next episode that we're definitely going to have together. So thank you so much, Liz. So appreciate you. Okay.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you enjoyed this, share this episode with others. Check out my other YouTube Evolving Women series. Liz, you have a podcast as well. I want to mention that real quick.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, Master Your Mindset.
So check her out there. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Liz. We'll see you the next time. Bye bye.
Bye.